Hey guys, it's Libby, and today I want to talk about thought distortions. So it is exactly what it sounds like. It's when your thoughts are distorted away from reality and rationality into something distorted. I don't know another word to put in there, but so this can happen to anybody. In fact, it happens to everybody. Everybody struggles with thought distortions at some point in their life. But I want to focus on thought distortions if you are experiencing mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, and eating disorder, OCD, so on and so forth. While everyone will deal with these types of thought distortions, when you're dealing with one, there are two paths you can take. The first one is to accept the thought distortion, let it rule your life, let it ruin your life, and just ride on with that. And you just live a distorted life, probably an unhappy life because of that. Or you can take the other path, which is taking the steps to educate yourself about thought distortions and then taking the steps to learn how to combat them. And that is exactly what I'm talking about in this video. In this video, I'm going to tell you about all of the thought distortions, as well as tell you what to do when one happens in your life, how to combat it, how to fight it, and yeah, so let's get going. So the first type of thought distortion I'm going to talk about is black or white thinking, or all or nothing thinking. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's where you see things as one way or the other. There is no gray space in between. So say you have social anxiety and you were invited to a party. So you are thinking to yourself, this is either gonna go really good and it's gonna be great, I'm gonna make friends, I'm gonna be social, and it's gonna be good. Or you're thinking, this is gonna go awful, everyone's gonna hate me, I'm gonna be so awkward and weird, nobody's gonna like me, it's gonna go bad. You're not thinking about the in-between areas that lie. So, for example, you could think, well, I might have a couple awkward interactions, but I might have some good ones. So, you know, it's going to be somewhere in that middle area of how this goes with my social anxiety. So, black or white thinking, all or nothing thinking. It's where you think one or the other. There's no gray space in between. The next type of thought distortion is overgeneralization. It's when you take one event that happened and you say, this is what's going to happen again and again and again and again. It's always going to be bad. It's always going to be negative. It's just, I'm screwed. You know what I mean? So an example of this would be, say you went to a party and you have social anxiety and you have like a weird interaction that was awkward and strange and uncomfortable. Then you're going to think to yourself, wow, that was a really weird interaction, and now all of my future interactions are just going to be so weird. They're going to be awful. I'm going to feel weird. They're going to go bad. People aren't going to like me every single time I meet someone new. And so you're taking that one instance and you're saying, it's gonna happen again and again and again and again. This is, you know what I mean? So you're overgeneralizing that one event that happened and saying that it's gonna happen again and again and again. And it's usually distorted towards something negative. Like, it's rare, I feel like if you were to think, if you say you had a good interaction and you're like, wow, every interaction from now on is gonna be great. Like, I don't know if I would call that a thought distortion. I might call that optimism in that case. But yeah, so it's when you're overgeneralizing an event or something like that onto all future events or interactions, or even, like, it doesn't have to be an event. I think I've been saying event over and over again, but say like you have a bad relationship or something, or like you have a bad friend and saying, wow, now all the people in the future are going to be bad too. So it's not just events, but yeah. So the next type of thought distortion is a mental filter. This is where you're only seeing the negatives. You do not see any of the positives. Like, you're missing the whole picture. All you're seeing is the negatives. You don't even recognize the positives. So imagine you have depression and you're thinking about your life and you're thinking, wow, my life is just awful. I hate school. I have no friends. I don't like to do anything. I'm always tired. So on and so forth. So you're just thinking about all the negatives and you're not even in a place where you're recognizing the positive things. You're not thinking, well, my family loves me and I'm really good at guitar and I'm smart, you know, like you're not even recognizing those things. All you're thinking about is the bad, and it's not like a conscious decision to just think about the bad. It's just what's happening, what's coming out of you. It's just the negativity. So it is what that is. It isn't recognizing any positives. So similar to that, but a little bit different, is discounting the positives. This is where you can recognize the positive things, but you say that they don't matter, they don't mean anything, they're nothing. So say again, depression, say, oh, I'm terrible, I don't have any friends, I'm so tired all the time, yada yada yada, whatever I just said. But then you can recognize, you can say, I mean, I'm good at guitar, but like, what does that matter? Like, I'm smart, but like, smarts aren't everything. Like, my family loves me, but like, that doesn't really matter. They have to love me. You know what I mean? Like, so you're able to acknowledge the positives, but to you, they don't mean anything. They're worthless. So that is another type of thought distortion that is similar to the previous one, but different. The next type of thought distortion is mind reading. So this is where you think that you can mind read. It's kind of self-explanatory, but you think that you know what other people are thinking. You think you know that they are thinking negative things about you. For example, say you have OCD, say you've got some sort of compulsion that is visible to people around you. You might then read their minds and say, wow, they must think I'm so weird. They must think I'm a freak. They must think I'm fucking crazy. You know what I mean? So that is another type of thought distortion, when you think you can read their minds and you're not even like thinking about the positive things they could be thinking about you, or the fact that they might not be thinking about you at all, you know? The next type of thought distortion is fortune telling. This is where you're arbitrarily predicting that things are going to turn out negatively, when in fact you don't really know that. You can't really say for sure that things are going to turn out bad, you know what I mean? So an example of this would be, say you are depressed and say you have a job interview. And because you're so down on yourself and stuff, you might just say, wow, this job interview is not going to go well. It's just not going to go well. It's going to be bad. I'm a terrible person. It's going to go bad. So you're fortune telling. You're like trying to predict the future when you can't say that. Like, you know what I mean? The next type of thought distortion is magnification or minimization. And that's where you're either blowing something out of proportion or making it seem like no big deal. So an example of that would be, say you have an eating disorder and you ate a meal. This can be magnified or minimized depending on the situation. So if I want to magnify that, like give you an example of a magnification of that. So say you ate a meal and then say you're not in recovery. You're going to think to yourself, wow, I'm so fat. Wow, I have no control of myself. I ate a meal. This is the worst thing I've done ever. Oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I ate a meal. You know, so that would be blowing it way out of proportion. That's one meal. You're not going to get fat from one meal. You're not like lost all self-control because of one meal, so on and so forth. Say I want to minimize that. Say you are in recovery and you ate one meal. You might say to yourself, wow, I ate a meal. Like, good for me. Whoop-de-doo. Ooh, great. Like, I'm not recovered because of that. It's no big deal that I ate a meal. Like, who cares? It was one meal. It means nothing. When in reality, in recovery, every meal you eat counts. Every meal you eat matters. Every meal is a step you've taken to get better. So, yeah. The next type of thought distortion is emotional reasoning. And that is where you are, like, reasoning from your emotions. Wow, I don't know how to, like, reword it, so I'll just give you an example. So say, like, you did something and you feel a little silly for it. Say you, like, maybe you were having a conversation and you said something that came off a little stupid. So then your thought distortion would be, wow, I'm stupid. I am stupid. I'm an idiot. So it's kind of like where you take a feeling you had and you turn it into your truth. So another example of that could be like, say you, again, say you had an eating disorder and you weren't in recovery and you ate a meal and you felt like kind of guilty about it and you felt like foolish for it and you felt fat because of it. You'll just tell yourself, wow, I am an idiot, I am fat, I am foolish, stuff like that. So that's kind of where you're taking your emotions and you're making that into fact. The next type of thought distortion I want to talk about is should statements, and I'm actually going to make a whole video dedicated to should statements in the future, but for now we're just going to talk about it briefly. So it's when you criticize yourself based on should statements, when conditions aren't met, overestimating how bad the results are, things like that. So for example, it's easier if I just give you an example. Say you're like, man, I should really exercise. Saying should is just automatically gonna make you judge yourself. Like, you're telling yourself, I should have exercised, but I didn't. And now you're thinking to yourself, wow, I'm lazy. I should have done that, but I'm lazy, but I'm stupid, whatever. So it's where you're like putting expectations on yourself, usually ones that you haven't met yet, and you're letting that like control how you feel about yourself. It like leads to what you feel about yourself, if that makes sense. But again, I'm gonna make a whole video about should statements, and I think that that'll help you understand better what I mean by should statements and why they're harmful. So the next type of thought distortion is labeling and mislabeling. So an example of that would be like saying, man, I made a mistake, so I am a mistake. And that's very similar to the emotional reasoning. Although I think the difference kind of is like emotional reasoning is coming from your emotions. So saying like, wow, like I feel so like stupid, I feel so like silly and like naive or whatever, so I must be stupid. Whereas say like labeling and mislabeling might come a little bit more from fact, but that doesn't mean it is fact. So like say you got like a C on your test, and you then in that case thought, wow, I am stupid because I got a C on my test, because a C isn't the best grade out there. So just because you got a C doesn't mean you're stupid, although the thought does come from like a little bit of a fact rather than like a feeling. So that's kind of the difference that I've understood between those two types of thought distortion, emotional reasoning and labeling and mislabeling. So one comes more from emotion, the other comes more from fact, but it doesn't mean it is fact. Just because you got a C doesn't mean you're stupid. You know what I mean? So, wow, the sun is just doing all kinds of weird things on my face and body. I don't like it. Oh, wow. The next type of thought distortion is personalizing. So it's believing that others are acting negatively because of you. So an example of this from my own life would be, say you're dating a heroin addict. This is all in the past, by the way. You might think to yourself, wow, he's shooting up because of me. I am a bad girlfriend, so he shoots up. Yeah. So you're like saying that others are bad because of you. And are you responsible for other people's actions? No. So yeah. The next type is tunnel vision. And tunnel vision actually is very similar to another one. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Wow. Do you ever just choke on air? Because I just did that. Whew. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So tunnel vision, though, is where you're seeing only the negative. So that is kind of like the mental filter, I suppose. Maybe they're the same thing. For this video, I just did a lot of research, and some things were called different things. Other things kind of like, you know, same name, different thing, different name. I mean, they're the same thing. Whatever, you know what I mean. So, yeah. So tunnel vision is where you're seeing only the negative, but I really did kind of describe that earlier. So those are the main types of thought distortions out there. Are there others? Probably. But those are the ones that are regarded as the thought distortions. So what do you do with all that information that I just spat out at you? Say you have an eating disorder and you just ate a king-sized candy bar. I'm speaking again from my own experience. So say you did that, and so you feel like you did something bad, and then you say, I am bad because of that. That is a type of thought distortion that would probably go under emotional reasoning. And sometimes thoughts can go under multiple types of thought distortion, so that can go under as well. Say I like ate the candy bar, and then I'm like, wow, I'm gonna fuck up every single night. I'm gonna keep eating candy bars. I'm gonna get so fat. That could also count as overgeneralization. mental filter, because instead of like having felt like good about eating the candy bar, like, wow, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone by eating a candy bar, and I let myself enjoy something, I satisfied a craving. Like, instead of acknowledging those things, so you are missing that whole picture, or you're noticing that stuff but you're discounting it. So discounting the positives or mental filter. Things can kind of fall into multiple categories. It's not like a black and white thought distortion type of process or thing that happens. Once you're familiar with these thought distortions and you recognize that one just happened, like, whoa, like I just thought something that isn't true, like I just had a distorted thought, the first thing you're gonna do is think about what happened. Okay, so in this case, I ate a fucking candy bar. Whew. Automatic thought. So my automatic thought when I ate the candy bar was, wow, I'm disgusting, I'm fat, I'm stupid, I have no control of myself, da da da. So then you gotta think, okay, which thought distortion is this? Okay, check, 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 whatever it was. And then you think to yourself, okay, how much do I believe that thought that I just had? Like, 1 out of 10, how much do I believe what I just said? And say, I feel pretty confident that I am a fat piece of shit now because I ate that. So I'm gonna mark that at a 7, let's say. So I'm a 7 out of 10 confident that that is a true statement. What I just thought, what my distorted thought was. Like, I'm pretty sure that what I just thought is the truth, although it seemed kind of distorted to me. So next you got to think about evidence against that thought. So think to yourself, okay, well, I ate a candy bar, but like I didn't like eat like shit all day. Like I just like I ate pretty healthy today. Like I ate fruit and stuff, and you know, like I didn't lose control. It was one candy bar. I didn't eat like 18 candy bars, you know what I mean? So like you've got to start finding evidence that counters your thought, your distorted thought. And it's not going to be easy, because you know, you're thinking to yourself these things and you think they're true, but you've got to fight it, and you've got to look for reasons why it's not true, because deep down inside you know it's not true. And so after you find some evidence as to why that thought maybe isn't the case, then you've got to come up with an alternate, rational, realistic thought to replace your distorted thought. So in this case, I ate the candy bar. My first thought was distorted. So now I've got to think of a thought that is a reaction to eating the candy bar that isn't distorted. So something I could think was, well, I satisfied a craving by eating that candy bar, and I enjoyed the candy bar, and I didn't lose control or go crazy. Like it wasn't that big of a deal. I just had a candy bar. You know what I mean? So thought distortions, they're something that you will deal with in your life, and you can either let them rule you or you can conquer them. Yeah, wow, the sun, why is the sun doing this? This doesn't make for a good video. Anyways, I'll just sit over here. So yeah, so those are the main types of thought distortions and some information about them and how to conquer them. If you have any more tips and tricks and stuff like that for people who are facing thought distortions, feel free to leave it down in the comments. If you have any mental health video requests or ideas, feel free to leave that down in the comments as well. And yeah, so have a wonderful day, evening, weekend, week, whatever it may be. Yep, that's all I got for you. So bye.